It's the podcast again. Woo! It's and we're doing an interesting one. We're doing Doctor Who, which is something that much requested and has had a lot of interaction on Instagram. And we've got some Whovians. Is that the PC term for them now?
Yeah. Some people say dweeb, but I hate that one, so I go with Whovian.
Oh, I've never heard dweeb before.
Yeah,
I just don't really like that.
So we have today with us, we have Peter. Who's
Hello.
Over here somewhere for you guys. We have Aidan. And
That's
we also
me.
have Lesley here. Who's BATAR again? I always forget. Like, I feel like we have a lot of. Who
I did BATAR, TV and radio.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And I am also.
Two BATAR. Nice. Okay, cool. Good to know. You guys will know more about TV than I do, hopefully. And you'll be able to teach me some things about Doctor Who. But yeah, I don't know if you guys want to give us a quick, little rundown on sort of why you wanted to be involved with this particular podcast and sort of what Doctor Who means to you, I suppose. For me, I have a poster in the background here. I have Doctor Who themed stuff. I used to watch it avidly when I was younger. I assume most of us are of the Christopher Eccleston as our first sort of introduction to the whole series. But yeah, what about you guys? Tell me about your Doctor Who start and why you watch it and why you like it.
Who's going first?
Should we start with Lesley, I suppose? I don't know.
Yeah, okay. I am the oldest, so I guess age before beauty. So yeah, I think I'm a fair bit older than the rest of you. So I'm a lecturer in BATAR. I actually lecture in radio, but I've been watching Doctor Who, since at least I was 5 or 6. So that's sort of the late 80s. And because I'm from the US, in those days, we didn't get it in sequence. We'd get sort of bits and pieces on PBS, which is our public service broadcasting company or corporation in the US. But yeah, so I've been watching it for probably over 30 years. And obviously watching the 2005 and onward series. I moved to the UK in 2008. I was doing my master's here before that, so I guess the first series I saw all the way through in Britton as it was outgoing was the David Tennant and Freema Agyeman series. And yeah, I've just always loved Doctor Who. Back when I was watching it when I was a kid, very few people in the US sort of knew what it was. It was very much a cult thing. It didn't have the same place in popular memory that it does in the UK. And it was only after I sort of came to the UK. I mean, we had a Doctor Who society or people who were fans of it in Albuquerque, which is where I'm from, and they were very active. But I met a lot more fans in the UK, and gosh, I'm just rambling now. But basically, I edit a Doctor Who fanzine, which I've been doing since 2008, and I've had some academic articles on Doctor Who published as well. So I guess it's safe to say I like it a lot.
Fair enough. Honestly, if you've written a paper about it, you can almost be considered a master of Doctor Who, I suppose. You truly know more than I will ever know. What about you, Peter?
Well, I got it through my dad. My dad used to be a big fan of it in the late 70s, early 80s. And he got me into it pretty much from the day I was born. I was watching all the old videotapes of the classic series. And then obviously when it came back in 2005, it was this big thing that everyone loved. And it wasn't just me at school that was obsessing over it. Everyone else was part of it. And then it's just, like you say, it just stayed with me. I worked on the Faceless Ones Blu-ray last year, so it's kind of spreading into my career now, which is quite nice. But yeah, it's good stuff.
Excellent.
My turn?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I started watching in 2005 when it came back. The earliest episode I remember is Father's Day. Like, it's one of my earliest memories is Doctor
That's a
Who.
good episode.
So yeah, I've been on the podcast before, but when I saw that there was a Doctor Who episode, I pretty much begged to be on it because I was like, I need to be part of Doctor Who, because it's one of those things. It's not just a TV show in my head, as you can see by all the stuff around me. It's just like the basis of my personality. It's like I see the world through a Doctor Who prism. It's just throughout school, I was known as like the Doctor Who kid, which is quite sad, really. But it's always been there. We had a Doctor Who club when I was in sixth form, and everybody in the Doctor Who club, would be a Doctor Who expert. But I was the Doctor Who expert in a room of Doctor Who experts. It was like, we want to fact check, just ask Aidan, and it's always been like that. So anything Doctor Who, I have to be a part of.
Excellent. Yeah, it has like massively influenced a lot of people throughout the years, and sort of the reason why we wanted to have this sort of conversation today and have this talk about Doctor Who, part of it I was thinking was because of the sort of surrounding the new series and what sort of the direction they've gone with the new series, and how it's what's it lost, where is it dropped the ball, and why don't the fans enjoy what Doctor Who is anymore? And obviously hearing it from you guys, who are all obviously avid Doctor Who fans and know quite a lot about the series and the new series and stuff as well, and you also be part of the communities that surround it and understand why other people sort of don't like it or do like it even. It'd be nice to hear some support for it also. If anyone wants to kick off, go ahead. Like, get stuff in.
Can I go ahead, because I'm going to be probably the lone voice here in support of the current direction and the current series.
I think we need to hear it.
And obviously, again, we're coming from sort of different fan expertise or backgrounds, and so I'll be very interested to hear, what is annoying you so much about it. And yeah, because I think the thing to keep in mind, maybe one of the reasons I love Doctor Who so much, is if you wait a couple of years, whatever you dislike about the current series, it will have changed. And throughout the 50 plus year history, there are certain eras that maybe I don't like as much as my husband likes, and he's at least a big a Doctor Who fan as I am, or our friends, or his dad, who's a Doctor Who fan, who got him into it. Like, Peter, you're saying that's how that was your way in. My mom watched it with me. That was my way in. So basically, yeah, to put it in a nutshell.
It's a family thing as well, though, isn't it? It's like you relate it to your family and those old memories that you have of watching it with your family, I guess. Yeah.
I think that is part of it. So, yeah, I think that's one thing to keep in mind. Obviously, everyone's passionate about certain aspects of Doctor Who, and that's great. And that I would just caution, maybe keep a bit of perspective. If you hate what's happening now, just wait, and in enough time it will have changed, and the pendulum will have swung back again. That said, like I said, I'm interested in hearing sort of your take on it and why everything is terrible, or whatever. But I was quite entertained by the latest series. I like the 13th Doctor. I like the fam. The last couple of episodes and how that impacted the canon and everything. I won't say I loved it. I found it quite strange, but I'm kind of interested to see what's going to happen next. So that's my feeling. I will give up the floor now to you guys.
What were your first opinions of the female Doctor then, way back in? Because that was sort of the start of the Chibnall era, wasn't it? That announcement that we had a female Doctor. Did everyone think of that?
Yeah, during Wimbledon. I remember when it happened and I was a bit like, this is new. But I wasn't really overly resistant to it, because really at the end of the day it's the characterization and the acting that matters more to me, and that's where my notes will come in when I get onto that. But it was definitely different, and I thought I wasn't expecting this, especially as the hot rumor was that it was Chris Marshall playing the new Doctor. So then when suddenly Jodie Whittaker showed up, I was like, what? I was expecting the guy from Death in Paradise. So yeah, that was my opinion.
Do you guys remember the rumor that Idris Elba was going to be the next Doctor?
He's rumored to be everything, though,
that was a weird time to be alive. I wasn't all of the whenever there's obviously a new series coming up and the sort of the leaks come out and like who the Doctor could potentially be in the new series, it always makes me laugh, all the crazy suggestions people have for it. And to be honest, I always like the way they take the Doctors, because they always do try and do it a little bit differently each time. So when Jodie Whittaker was announced, I was like, okay, cool. It's just I hope the writing supports her and supports her character and makes her look really good, which obviously some people disagree with and say, like, because here's the thing, I'm not super against the new series and I don't hate it, but I think there was only a handful of episodes I actually really enjoyed watching and had fun watching. Do you know what I mean? I think some of them felt a little bit some of them were a little bit preachy, and some of them were just very off color of what Doctor Who is and like what it has been in the past. And not that I see that they're trying to take it, they write the stories a little bit differently or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I'd really like to hear what you two have to say, Aidan and Peter, about this. Right, anyway, you guys, go ahead.
Well, where do you want us to start? Because I've got 3 points written down, which is what my issues are with the current era. So I thought, I could just go through those and discuss as we go along, really.
Yeah.
My first point is the Doctor. Like, as we say, it's nothing to do with the gender, really. It's just, I don't think this Doctor feels like the Doctor at all. It's the characterization that they've given to the 13th Doctor, I think, just sorely lacks every quality that I consider to be part of the Doctor. I don't see them in this character. Like, ones I have a real issue with are unable to command a room and things like that. Like, there's some scenes I will forget the Doctor's there. She'll just disappear into the background. I'll just be like, oh yeah, you're part of this series, aren't you? That's one thing I have a major issue with, which is something that every other Doctor has. They could walk into a room, go, I'm the Doctor, and straight away they're in there, who's in charge, because I don't think she has that one. Other things like hypocritical and ambiguous. This Doctor's like, I don't see any clear what her morals are. She'll go into something and be like, yeah, let's do this. Then by the end of it, you're like, what? Arachnids in the UK, for example, when she was like, don't shoot the spiders, that's wrong. Anyway, let's starve them to death in a locked room. And I was like, well, which is more humane, putting them out of the misery or starving them? Which one are we going for? And things like that, I'm just like, what is your moral standpoint here, Doctor? Again, she's quite some things as well. In the last series, we had Graham, Bradley Walsh's character, who was opening up about his cancer struggles and his fear that it will one day come back. This is a moment every other Doctor would have given an emotional speech, comforted the companion, make sure they are not scared. No, this Doctor just went, okay, and walked away. And I was like, what? Where is the Doctor here? You've just got somebody who doesn't care. And the BBC even received complaints for that. And it's just, for me, just one of my 3 major issues that doesn't work with this Doctor is I don't know what she's about. I could give blurbs on all 12, 13, however many you want to count, other Doctors. I couldn't give you what this Doctor is about. And for me, that's a real struggle, because I just don't know who the 13th Doctor is.
And with the second season now, I assume, because I said this at the beginning, but I actually haven't seen the second season yet, because I saw like the terrible reviews it was getting, so I've sort of been quite put off watching it. There's still not been any sort of real development in her, in the way, has she developed at all? Are they keeping her on another season? What's going on? Because I don't I don't really mind
Well,
about spoilers. So
there's just a rumour's just come out at the moment that Jodie Whittaker's staying for 2 more series.
2 more.
That's just come out at the moment, which, considering they're released every other year at the moment, that would mean she's the longest serving Doctor since Tom Baker, which is just like mental for me, because I just still don't know who this Doctor is, and the last series didn't help that. Not really.
My main problem with it is just they don't really know what they want to do with her Doctor. It's like, I wasn't a big fan of Matt Smith's Doctor, but at least when he was the like giddy character that he was, he did it well, and you knew exactly what his character was to a T within like the first episode. And it's like with 2 series into Jodie, it's like I don't even know who she is anymore. I think part of it as well is like, maybe it's wrong for me to say this as a Doctor Who fan, but I don't really care anymore. Like, we've had 2 series of her Doctor, and it's just like I got past the point of trying to find what her character's about, and it's just like, I'm just waiting for it to sort of be there.
It's one of those where I think you are going to get some people that do like what they're doing, right? And I know there has been some support of the latest season. Obviously, we have Lesley as well, who is, supporting what they're doing and saying that they are. I mean, what would you say? I mean, Lesley, what would you say to what we've sort of raised, the negative points, that have come out?
Yeah, well, I'm kind of sad to hear that you're kind of waiting for her era to be over. But at the same time, I get what you say about especially arachnids in the UK. That was very undoctor-like behavior, or at least it was not clear. It was not morally the kind of clarity that you might expect from the Doctor. In terms of being hypocritical and ambiguous, I would point out that that's maybe a long-standing thing about Doctor Who that we maybe don't acknowledge to ourselves. If we think about some of the violence that, we at least I pride myself on thinking that the Doctor, as Terence Dicks said, never cruel, never cowardly. And this idea that he or she doesn't use weapons and that kind of thing. But if you look at the very strong sort of militaristic vibe that you get from the Pertwee era with Unit, some of the Tom Baker episodes, and obviously the Sixth Doctor, very sort of, renowned for its that era for its violence. So I'd say it's not a new thing. That doesn't necessarily excuse it, but I'm just saying, a precedent has perhaps been established, and it's a very strange thing because I love the Sixth Doctor. I think Colin Baker is really underrated, and he was a great Doctor. But if you actually sit back and watch the stories, like I rewatched Time Lash not too long ago, and every time I approach a Doctor Who story, I think, I'm going to find something I really enjoy about it, even if it's as critically derided as Time Lash. And there were a few moments of light, things you could enjoy about Time Lash, but most of it's pretty dreadful, and especially, the really disgustingly sexist way that Perry is treated. But basically, still, even with dud stories like that, and Colin Baker had a lot of them, I still like the Sixth Doctor. I still think he's a really interesting character, and interesting what you say, Aidan, about the 13th Doctor not being able to command a room. You could say the Sixth Doctor could certainly command a room, but he was also quite violent. So I'm just saying there are contradictions, and perhaps sometimes they're inherent in Doctor Who. As for the 13th Doctor's response to Graham and sort of, his dealing with the cancer and that very emotional moment. And again, I agree, it's very strange, and I don't know what's going on there. On the other hand, I wonder, just throwing this out there as a possibility, is it a comment on her alienness? I'm not sure. So yes, I'd agree with all of your points. I can sort of understand how you're saying that, there's a lot of inconsistency here. We still don't quite know who this Doctor is. I'm not sure I completely agree. I feel like she's being sort of defined by her relationship with the companions, which is one way of defining a doctor, I suppose. I mean, that's something we could talk about as well, is how are we feeling about this very crowded TARDIS, and is that working, and does that ever work?
I think it's quite interesting that you use the Sixth Doctor as the example there, because the 13th Doctor is my least favourite, and next one is the Sixth Doctor for me. I'm not a fan of his Doctor at all. In his first episode, he strangles his companion. There's another episode where he pushes a guy into an acid bath, and I'm like going, what is going on here with this Doctor? So it's, for me, I find it's quite interesting that you're like, well, the 13th Doctor's only doing things that the 6th Doctor did, and I'm like, well, I don't like him either. So it really comes down to the personal preference of what you believe the Doctor should be. And for me, the darker sides can be interesting. Like Series 8, Peter Capaldi was brilliant, I thought. Not many people agree on that, but I personally think Capaldi was an amazing Doctor. But
oh no, I agree. I think he was awesome.
Darker sides can work when they're not. When they're not. Let's starve animals to death. Let's strangle my companion. That's like, whoa! You've gone too far over to one side here. So yeah, that's just how I feel with that one. So it's personal preference of what qualities you focus on with the Doctor, really. And for me, the sides that they're leaning in on with the 13th Doctor aren't the sides that I personally like.
I think that's why, because I'm such a big fan of Hartnell, I think that's why it works so well, though, because of how unpredictable he is. Like, he can, 1 minute he's smashing a caveman's head in, and the next he's like caring for Barbara. You know what I mean? Like, this, he's so unpredictable and there's so many different facets to his character, and I just don't see that with Jodie. Like, I just see Jodie as there's no depth to her character. Is what I don't, is the issue I have with it.
I think the way that because when they revealed it was Jodie Whittaker as the new Doctor, I was worried that they'd make a lot of what her character was about, the fact that she was a woman, and it's like, and I was like, oh, they're gonna throw in a joke there, or like they're gonna throw something in there where it's like, oh well, you're only a woman, and that did happen like a few times, I'm pretty sure, and I feel like really like. And I think I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but maybe I don't know how she actually responded to that in character. But I feel like if she was more of that commanding character that you want to see, and she had that standing, people wouldn't say that. And I feel like it was a little bit like, I don't know, it seems like a bit of a jab at her almost as well. And I kind of feel a little bit sorry for her, actually, that she's been thrown into this kind of situation. With sort of Doctor Who and the way it is at the moment. I mean, I do need to watch the newest season as well, like I say. But either way, yeah, we have a load of questions as well from Instagram, but we can do those later, I think.
Yeah, I've got my 2 other points if you want to go into those ones.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So next, I've got dismissal of past as one. Which I'll go for because I think I can connect that up with this bit. And I say with 13th Doctor, you're saying that she's not been given depth. Can't remember who said that, but it's not been given depth. And I think this is very much this 13th Doctor is like, yeah, we'll just forget everything that came before. This is the Doctor now. And I think for me, that is fine for a reboot. If you want to do that in your first episode, maybe even part of the first series, that's fine. And I think actually the only episode of Jodie Whittaker's era I like is her first one, The Woman Who Fell to Earth. That's the only one that I can say I enjoy and actually revisit sometimes, because there was references here and there to, well, I was a white-haired Scotsman half an hour ago, and you're like, I like these sort of references here and there. But the rest of the series, it's been very much sort of like any time when you'd think, well, the Doctor would do that, surely the 5th Doctor would have reacted to that this way, and he would have learned from that, from this blah blah blah. It's not there with this Doctor. And then, I mean, we will go full spoilers now because there's no other way to discuss this point other than mentioning the timeless child. But that was, again, just sort of that. It felt offensive, to be completely frank, that for those who don't know, and Charlie, if you need any explaining, the timeless child revealed that the Doctor is not a Time Lord. No, the Doctor is an immortal demigod. And I was like, And to me, 57 years of canon, everything we know about regeneration, about the Doctor, about the Time Lords, everything, yeah, forget it. So,
well, didn't they technically already kind of retcon that anyway? Because a Doctor's only supposed to be able to regenerate, like a Time Lord's only supposed to be able to regenerate 12 times. They originally said, I'm pretty sure, and then they were like, we need a new series, 13th Doctor.
Well,
okay.
Matt Smith was given a second regeneration cycle in the time of the Doctor.
Oh yeah.
So Peter Capaldi was supposed to be. Peter Capaldi was the first Doctor of the second cycle, which is why I think his Doctor. Some people, I see a lot of people who criticise Capaldi and say that you could do a multi-Doctor episode with him from series 8, 9, and 10 because his Doctor was so different in each series. And while that is quite funny, I do think, well, that's his development, because he started very, very grumpy and just sort of like, why am I here? I should be dead. But then by the end of his reign, he became like a cool granddad, and he was just sort of like, he was like, okay, I'm happy with life now. Here I am, the Doctor, I'm back.
Yeah, so then when the cool granddad vibe.
When Jodie Whittaker comes around and it's like, yeah, we're just not going to acknowledge any of that. I was sort of like, but you're supposed to, it frustrates me. And then the Timeless Child, really, I mean, that he just hammered it home. I mean, there are other things in series 12 that I thought just dismissed the past. For example, the Master came back after only one series of absence and completely reversed all of his character that developed with Missy. Missy gradually became friends with the Doctor, and by the end died saving the Doctor, essentially. And then suddenly 2 series later, the Master's back, he's all crazy and he's dressing up as a Nazi. Literally happened. And I'm just like, what happened to Missy's character? So it's that you can have the Doctor is something I really don't like about the current direction, and then this idea that, oh yeah, just forget the past, because yes, Jodie Whittaker's first episode had the highest ratings New Who has ever had, because everybody was like, oh, female Doctor, let's watch this. But the last series had the lowest ratings in the entire series' run. Everything from 1963, it's never been as low as last series. Yes, streaming service is part of that. But to me, it's like the only people that are left are your core Doctor Who fans. So if you are dismissing this past, that's everybody who knows the 57 years of history. And then you're basically giving them the middle finger and saying, yeah, it doesn't matter about you. We're just focusing on the new people. And that to me is just, I'm like, why would you do that? Because the only people still giving you a loyal fan base are us, the ones who have all of this merge, the ones who have been watching for so long. And now you're telling us that everything we knew about the Doctor is wrong. He isn't a Time Lord who ran away and stole a TARDIS because he didn't agree with the society. No, he was some immortal person who came from an alternate universe, gave the Time Lords experimented on him, took the ability of regeneration. What? It's like the Doctor's supposed to be a godlike figure, not an actual god. Do you know what I mean? It's just that
Time Lords couldn't originally regenerate?
No, I can't think what the original race of the Time Lords was called, if anybody knows that. I can't think what it was called. Shobogans, something weird like Shobogans, that's it, yeah. The people who lived on Gallifrey originally were called Shobogans, which is a thing that's gone back to Classic Who. Shobogans exist in Classic Who, that's fine. And then there was one of those called Tecteun, which is just some scientist person who found this child who fell off a cliff and instead of dying, regenerated and turned into another child. So this immediate Doctor's response was, let's kill this child repeatedly and see how many times they can regenerate. Eventually took the ability of regeneration off that child and then gave it to the Shobogans, I guess, who became Time Lords. And then they found the ability of time travel and stuff, which is reverse of what we knew from that before. We found out what the old idea was, that Time Lords developed the ability to regenerate from exposure to the time vortex, which is also why River Song could regenerate, because she was conceived on the TARDIS, therefore exposure to the time vortex. Then we're told, no, that's not the case. It's actually just this psycho-scientist who killed a child repeatedly. And it's like, what? That is not what we're told. That's not what we believe as Doctor Who fans. That defeats the point of why the Doctor ran away from Gallifrey. He, she, whatever. Has been more male doctors, that's why I just say he. But the Doctor is 2,000 years old. We think they've had 13, 14, 15 technically regenerations, when actually it's more like 2 million or something. It takes away the stakes. Every time now the Doctor's running away from Daleks, it doesn't really matter. She might as well just run out and get exterminated, because she's not going to die. It doesn't matter. there's no stakes for the Doctor anymore with the Timeless Child. And I've gone on a complete Timeless Child ramble now, but I just hate it with all my being. I hate it.
So
that's my biggest problem though with the Timeless Children, is that like the Doctor's meant to be a nobody. Like essentially, it could have been you, could have been me, could have been anyone, and that's what makes the Doctor special. Is that essentially he isn't special. He's just anyone, and he becomes special because he's basically a rebel that goes off and travels the stars. And it's like by making him special, you sort of make him less special, because he's not special because of who he is. He's special because of you know what I mean. Like he's special because of his special powers rather than his character, I guess.
Yeah, it's that idea that anybody can come from nothing. And that's why superheroes are popular. Somebody like Spider-Man is just an ordinary person who gets his powers and suddenly they're amazing. This one is now just like, yeah, it doesn't matter if you have talent, if you care, this, that, and the other. If you're not born from it, it doesn't really matter. And I think it just gives off the wrong messages. Which is why, again, the episode Rosa, some people love that episode. I really don't like it because the message of the episode that I got from it was, doesn't matter if there's social issues, nothing we can do about it, just sit by and let the people that it involves deal with it. And I think that just gives off the wrong message. And I think all of this, there's this really preachy side of this current era of Doctor Who. But sometimes you go, okay, I get that message, and we sort of know that message anyway. Then there's some you're like, that's questionable. Rosa was like, stand by and just don't get involved in racism. And this one's just like...
Yeah, it was weird, wasn't it? Because you sort of feel like, oh, well, it's one of those... I know they write it in and say that it's it's an important point in history, and like this has to happen in order for things to happen normally, like for things to carry on. Do you know what I never understood, though? How, like... Can you explain to me why the Doctor could always meddle with stuff that was happening in the modern day, like whenever they go back to present time. I don't know how you can consider what present time is, but whenever they go back to present time, they can do the Doctor can do whatever they want, but going to the past events is like
wibbly wobbly, timey wimey.
Yeah, like I never understood that. Like, what is it like?
I don't know. I guess when they're in major historical moments, it's because they are fixed points of time. And I guess if they went, oh yeah, Rosa Parks never got on the bus, it'd be like, whoa, but that's not how we understand society. And it just changed too much. I think it's too much for the writing team to deal with.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that there's really consistency with, if we're looking at the 57-year history in terms of changing events, fixed points in space and time. And you can't rewrite history, not one line. I mean, I do feel it's been rather inconsistent throughout, or at least I can't say definitively this is when you can change it and this is when it can't be changed. That's sort of my understanding.
What about the really weird Hitler episode when they put Hitler in the cupboard? That was another really strange episode they had that I sort of forget and then I remember. I remember when that came out and I hated that episode because it's like, let's kill Hitler. You thought, oh, this is going to be an epic episode. And I remember calling it at the time, it's not let's kill Hitler, it's just let's punch Hitler in the face and lock him in a cupboard. And then you had River Song regenerating, and it didn't really make any sense. But if you do watch it in a full Series 6 rewatch, it does make sense. But on its own, I still think, what was the point of that episode? Yeah, it's just like a weird filler episode that they threw in there, and I just think it's a really weird, I don't know. Anyway, it's one of those. Yeah, sorry, you had one more point, right? That you wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, I just noticed it at the end of my notes, just before I do say that. I was going to say about the Timeless Child again, just before I bury it, because I just can't bear to think of it. But in 1989, I mean, this is a deep dive. You might know about it, but the Cartmel Master Plan. Do we know? Yes. Okay. For those at home who don't know, because we are diehard Whovians, so we would know the Cartmel Master Plan. But for those who don't know what it is, it was in 1989. The script editor at the time was going to introduce in the next season that the Doctor was one of the 3 founding fathers of Gallifrey and it was going to be Rassilon, Omega, and the Other. And that's sort of very similar to what the Timeless Child was, because the Doctor was sort of similar to the Other. That idea never happened because Doctor Who was axed, so that never came about. But what I thought was really interesting was Andrew Cartmel, who was part of the Cartmel Master Plan. He was interviewed about the Timeless Child, and they said, "Do you like it? 'Cause it's very similar to your idea." And he said, "No, it's gone too far. He said the title of the show is Doctor Who. We don't know who the Doctor is. We don't know where they come from. We know bits and bobs. We can strew some information together. But ultimately, the first 500 years of his life before he stole the TARDIS, we don't know. And he said, now we do know who the Doctor is. And he said you could rename the show to The Timeless Child because Doctor Who is irrelevant now. And I think that's really interesting about The Timeless Child, that even the people who had these extreme ideas are like, nah, Chibnall, you've gone too far.
I'm glad you brought up
Anybody want to jump in there?
The Cartmel master plan, because I was going to go there and say, when the show went off the air in 1989, all of these people like Cartmel and Ben Aronovich and Mark Platt, who'd been writing for the series in its sort of dying days, they did have a very different, I suppose, iconoclastic vision of Doctor Who, which they didn't get on the screen, but they got into the Virgin New Adventures, that line of books, which you may or may not be familiar with. And personally, I'm not that's not really my interest in terms of Doctor Who. I think it's interesting that that's what they saw their vision as, and because it was off the air and they didn't have to worry about things like budget and a general popular audience, they were dealing with fans at that time, and they could sort of take it where they wanted in the novels, with Lungbarrow and that kind of thing. And so I think it's interesting that Cartmel is saying that Chibnall's gone too far, but I wonder if Cartmel in 1989 would have said the same thing, and whether, all this time that's passed, all this water under the bridge, the person he is now would agree with the person he was then. I'm just saying, I feel like the vision that those guys had, they were quite young, and this idea of rewriting Time Lord history and sort of, what it meant to be Doctor Who and, who was the Doctor, it does have echoes to me of what's happening now. Just, to be honest, I don't particularly like The Timeless Child either. But at the same time, I'm wondering, and, I have no idea. I don't read a lot of online rumors. I don't really read a lot of fan reviews. So I don't know whether this is totally puerile and naive, but I'm wondering if this has all been set up to be reversed as a big kind of smokescreen, in which case I will sort of wonder why. But, it's certainly galvanized a certain, large swathe of fandom who are violently against it, like Aidan, which is fair enough. So I guess what I'm saying is maybe it's not set in stone. Maybe this whole change to everything we know is not quite what we think it is. I'm kind of hoping that's the case, because it's not my favorite thing ever either. I had more to say, but I forgot, so I'm gonna shut up now.
Well, I think it was like at the end of series 12 when the Doctor found out all this new information. I mean, there's even all the Ruth Doctor stuff that we've not even touched on, but I just don't know what to make of that, really. But at the end of the series, when the Doctor's found out that she is the Timeless Child or whatever, and then she was told, well, that doesn't matter. And that even annoyed me. I thought, okay, if you're going to do the Timeless Child, at least acknowledge it. Change who you are. From a story perspective, the Doctor's found out this massive thing. The whole life is a lie. Change something. Be like, oh my God, I need to change this. Something's different about me needs to change. And then it was just like, nah, it doesn't matter. Just keep going. And you're sort of like, well, why have you done this massive 57-year retcon if you're not even going to make it part of the Doctor's personality now? And I do think, like you were saying, it could change in a few years' time. I do think there is a big possibility of that happening because it was left so open-ended at the series 12. I think Chibnall was sort of putting his toe, like, dipping his toes in the water to just be like, do people like this? And if they do, I'll go all in. But if they don't, I'll just pull back a bit. Some people have been saying it'd be interesting if the Master was the Timeless Child. And I do think that would be an interesting concept, that the Doctor has to deal with, I come from the Master. I come from this the evil being, really. I mean, I know there's this whole thing, well, the Doctor and the Master brothers, but whatever, that's a whole separate thing.
Wouldn't it from a writing point of view, also the fact that Missy dies, wouldn't that make more sense? That she came back kind of thing? I didn't even think about that. So it would actually tie in really well.
Because the Master has had
dies, and then she comes back. Oh, I wonder how. Oh, she's Timeless Child. Okay, I know more about the Timeless Child.
Yeah, very good point.
So yeah, they could actually. That's a really good point. They could have done that, but it's hard. Like, are they going to retcon this? No, probably not. They're going to keep this as the new canon, I imagine, unless they really, 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 really don't like the way they're doing it now. I don't know what their personal thoughts are.
I think
Chibnall he's the main writer now, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's doing most of the writing for it.
I don't know. I think they could get away with retconning this because they've already retconned 57 years of history. So if they retcon 2 years of history, I think it looks a bit less bad. Do you know what I mean? So if they did just go, yeah, the Timeless Child, we'll just sweep that under the carpet, I'd be like, okay, I forgive you. But yeah, the thing about the Masters,
the half human thing though, where we don't mention it again, like the half human thing.
Yeah,
half human thing. Oh
yeah, the TV movie revealed the Doctor's half human on his mother's side, and that's just sort of been ignored. Just like, yeah, that never happened.
Well,
it's still technically canon, but no one talks about it.
Yeah.
Aren't the movies aren't they the old ones with who's
Peter
the guy?
Cushing.
Peter Cushing.
Peter
Yeah,
Cushing.
yeah, those ones.
No,
I love those.
That's something else.
that's something else.
Well, I've been reading. I'm trying to put a book proposal together about an aspect of Doctor Who, an academic book, and so I've been reading about certain theorists in Doctor Who academia say that Doctor Who actually doesn't have a canon, in the sense that yes, we've got two versions of the Dalek invasion of Earth. We've got the Peter Cushing version and we've got the William Hartnell version. How can they coexist? We've got, the Jubilee audio drama from Big Finish, which is basically reworked as Dalek in the 2005 series. We've got all these things that are coexisting.
Human nature.
Yeah, exactly. Human nature novel with the Seventh Doctor. And then it's the TV adventures with the 10th Doctor. And I sort of believe that it's hard to reconcile everything. That's not to say that there shouldn't be a canon and that we shouldn't be having discussions about, Timeless Child and retconning. But it's just hard to keep everything in your head and justify everything and make it all fit into one timeline, which is, I guess, part of the fun. I hope it's part of the fun.
Yeah, it's what I always find that with obviously diehard fans of any series, for example, obviously at the moment people are very unhappy. I talked about this in one of the other podcasts, but people are very unhappy with Star Wars and the canon that they've put out in Star Wars, and it always seems to be sci-fi that the main issues with canon come. For some reason, it always seems to be sci-fi. So maybe it's just it's going to be inherently flawed. After 60, well, how long have they been since around 1960? So what, 80 years of Doctor Who or something, with obviously a bit of a break in between. So about 60 or 50 years, probably more like
57.
57.
Yeah. Things are going to cross over, things going to overlap, things going to change. The way people write is going to change because it's been around for so long.
I think that's the case with small things, like small things like I'm half human that we have just sort of swept under the carpet. It's a throwaway line that we can just sweep under. But when you've got an entire series dedicated to a plot twist and a retcon, that's a bit harder to do. But I'm just, please, Chibnall, just make it the Master or just forget about it, because I can't watch this era of Doctor Who until it's gone. It's just really hard for me.
Well,
one of the biggest problems that I had as well with Timeless Children is there's that guy at the end. I think he's called Koshamas or something. I don't know. I've not watched Timeless Children again because why would you? But the end where he blows up Gallifrey or whatever he does, and you kind of think it's such an easy way out of the episode. Like, can you imagine if in Genesis of the Daleks the Doctor's about to put the two wires together and some random guy just comes out and says, "I'll do that." Such an easy way out of it, isn't it? Really?
Yes, it is a bit of a.
There's a lot of that with Chibnall's writing. That's my final point. The current direction and Chibnall is just Chibnall. He wrote Broadchurch. He did Law and Order. He can be an incredible writer. He even did much of Torchwood. He can be a great writer. I don't know what it is with Doctor Who. I don't think he can do it, in all honesty. in all his episodes that he wrote before taking over as showrunner, they're very much the episodes you can skip. I mean, I'm watching the Matt Smith era again at the moment, and I watched Hungry Earth, Cold Blood, and that episode's okay, but in the scheme of things, I can glance over it really, and I don't know if he was the right man for the job really, and I just think he's a big classic Who fan, we know that, and I think he's trying to put too much of that into the new Who formula, and he hasn't figured out how to do it yet, like having 3 companions for one thing, or having disconnected episodes where you just go from one thing into the next one, there's no carrying over. And I think it's just something's really not working with it. Like the 3 companions, or the fam as we're supposed to call them, because companions is apparently problematic now, but whatever. I just think that they all overshadow each other. And like Ryan and Yaz, I don't know what the 13th Doctor's about. I know even less about Ryan and Yaz.
It's like Ryan's dyspraxia, though, isn't it? Like, he'll say he has dyspraxia, and the next episode he's driving a car.
Yeah, well, yeah, they mentioned it. They mentioned it a few times in series 11. I've got dyspraxia, and then in series 12 he throws a basketball, and apparently that's him getting over his dyspraxia. And I was just sort of like, okay, is that the end of that
Easy.
now? And Yaz being a police officer, you'd think that would have some bearing on her character, but no, just get rid of that one. That doesn't matter. And then there's even that bit when Graham's talking to her and it's like saying, "You're an amazing person. You've done these great things," and we're just sort of sitting there going, what are you talking about? I've not seen any of these great things. What are these amazing things that Yaz has done? Because I can't find them, and I think the companions are really underdeveloped for somebody who wrote Broadchurch with this great characterization for all the characters in that, to then go to these 3 companions where you're just completely uninterested in them. Like, you can see all these Doctor Who figures behind me. I don't even have the action figures of the current companions, because I'm like, I think the plastic versions have a bit more personality than they do. But yeah, there's something about Chibnall, and I don't know what it is about him and Doctor Who, but I don't know if he is the right person for it.
I think what's happened is they're trying to explore a lot of interesting social issues in the new episodes, and that unfortunately does mean that the characters lose a lot of their sort of actual what they're doing, like what are the characters actually doing kind of thing, because they're just sort of experiencing these social things, and it's more of a commentary about like what life is like and like the society we live in and stuff. We live in a society in Doctor Who, and unfortunately that does mean the characters are now kind of second best to the story. So, and then they're not being
that's quite perceptive,
I suppose.
Yeah, I was just gonna say though, like the political issue with Doctor Who at the moment, controversial subject, let's just delve in without trying to cause too much uproar.
Damn it.
The Time of Children wasn't controversial.
True, but I think that's more universally derided than some of the political stuff. But Doctor Who of late has been very political. We all know that. Orphan 55 was an episode that ended with the Doctor basically looking into the lens of the camera and saying, climate change is bad, we need to do something about it. And sort of like, yeah, okay. But even that, Charlie, you're just saying that because they're focusing on that so heavily that it removes the characters. And I think, but that's not always, you can get away with focusing on politics and also giving good character. I recently rewatched The Green Death, the John Pertwee episode where Joe Grant leaves. And that is very, very political. There's a lot of satire in there, but it's very much miners' welfare and environmental change and all this sort of stuff. It's very evident. It even goes as far as like hippies making alternate meat substitutes and stuff. And I think this is very, I know what the political message is here. And yet it's Joe Grant's exit episode. And in that final part, when she decides to leave the Doctor, it's heartbreaking. And I was actually watching this recently going, I forgot how sad this was. And you can have this great character. Joe Grant in that is a brilliant character. Professor Jones, who she eventually marries, is a great character in that. In this massive political, very heavy social issue focused episode. And I don't know why she would find that.
I agree completely with you, Aidan. I'm glad you brought up The Green Death. I think the difference is The Green Death had, 4 episodes, 6 episodes?
6,
There was a lot more time to develop all of those things. So I think, I I personally wish we could have more 2-parters, more 3-parters, but that's just not the way it's being done at the moment. It hasn't been done. I mean, there have been 2-parters since, intermittently since the 2005 series started again. But I think it's hard to necessarily cram everything in to one episode with the level of depth that we would like. So that would be my suggestion there.
Yeah.
It is a fair point. I think Green Death, Sixth Death. The Green Death has 6 parts. I mean, 6 times 25. If anybody can be bothered with quick maths, we work out how many minutes are in that.
150.
Well, there we go. Look, quick maths.
Very quick.
Yeah, I don't.
Well, in a 2-parter, in that modern 2-parter, 60 minutes each, so it's 120 minutes. They can still get a very similar amount of running time out of two modern 2-part episodes, which are considerably longer.
So I just don't know why. I don't know how we can't find that balance.
Random story things that just pop up and then disappear again as fast as they came up. Things happen, and then you just think, oh, that just happened, and now it's not there anymore. And I remember thinking that a lot actually while watching the new series. There was like a couple. I can't think of anything specific, but I remember watching it thinking they were doing a thing. Oh, and now here's a quick sidetrack doing something else. Oh, we're back doing the thing again, and like it sort of jumped around quite a lot. So maybe that's the issue. Maybe they've just got too much. Maybe need to cut the fat a little bit more and get to the meat of the story a bit quicker. Anyway, yeah. So I've been looking at the questions that we got on Insta. And a lot of the questions we have actually covered. So there was a couple people asking about the Timeless Child, thoughts on the Timeless Child concept. We've obviously talked about it. General consensus seems to be that it's
Aidan loves it.
Yeah, Aidan loves it. It's his favourite thing about the new
pinnacle of Doctor Who.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. It's my favourite thing I've ever seen.
Another one here. Yeah, there's 3 people asking about the Timeless Child. The brain of... it says, considering the Timeless Child plus the brain of Morbius, how many Doctors have there actually been? And I have it up here at the moment. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then the War Doctor, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. You've also got the Watcher, the Veil Yard, the Meta Crisis, Dream Lord, and the Curator. You can also technically count the Dr. Donna almost. So that could be another one. A bit of an ambiguous one. I can't think of it though.
In the brain of Morbius, there's this scene where the Doctor's doing some mind battle. It's been a while since I watched it. I can't think exactly what it's called. But all these faces appear on the screen, which I believe are all just basically Doctor Who producers in funny outfits, and they're supposed to be all Doctors pre-Hartnell. And that was an idea that was thrown up. Like we were saying earlier, that was an idea that was thrown up. There were Doctors before Hartnell, but again, it was just swept under, just like whatever. They were just faces the Doctor thought of. People thought of retcons for it. But in the Timeless Child, the Doctor has some moment when all these things appear around her, and those faces show up again. So it is like these were actual Doctors before Hartnell, which doesn't really make sense to me, because the Timeless Child, the other, whatever you want to call the character, only really became the Doctor with Hartnell's incarnation. So I don't know why there would be people off adventuring. It's like with this new Ruth Doctor, which was introduced in series 12. Like, she buried a TARDIS, which looked like a police box, which if she was before Hartnell doesn't make sense, because the TARDIS only got stuck as a police box in Hartnell's first episode. So I don't know how that really works. And it's impossible to say how many Doctors there are now, because
it depends what the canon. It depends what your personal canon is and what you want to consider canon as well, because I'm sure there's more in all the literature and all the writing and all the other sort of weird episodes that there've been. The movies, like, do you count those as separate Doctors even? Who knows? I was
just going to say, in regards to the brain of Morbius stuff, it's like no one really cared. No one was like having sleepless nights about it. It's just like, why do we need this in there?
Well, apparently Chibnall was. Apparently since the 70s he's been going, who were those doctors? Who were they? I need to explain it. So then when he finally gets his keys to the TARDIS, he does it. But I don't think anybody else cared. When I watched The Brain of Morbius, I just went, who are those faces? Oh, whatever, doesn't matter. They didn't have any impact. And 40 years later...
in the Virgin books anyway, didn't they? They explained away the Brain of Morbius doctors in those books anyway. So if anybody was desperate, just go and buy those books. Like, don't know.
Yeah. Let's see.
What other questions are there?
Right, we'll start. So someone said, what does Chibnall think he's playing at? I think we've covered that quite well. Which
I
species...
don't think even Chibnall knows.
No one knows is the answer to that.
Sorry, Chibnall. I don't want to get done for slander, but I'm just not a fan of your work.
Maybe we can get him on the podcast next time, and you can have a chat with him and sort of slap him straight a bit. I don't know. Which species and characters would be in your ultimate episode if you could have your own personal episode of Doctor Who with any of the Doctors, any monster, what's your ultimate concoction you would create for a Doctor Who episode?
That's a really good question.
Yeah, so that's a bit of a meaty one, isn't it? Really.
Well, the reason I was looking behind me is because I'm just looking at my toys and seeing which ones I want to come back. That's a really hard one because I don't really know who I want to come back that hasn't before. Really, I mean, I want the Sea Devils to come back, but I wouldn't say they're my ultimate monster. I just don't know.
I'd really like to see another Christopher Eccleston episode, to be honest. Just one. I just want one. Just give me one episode with Christopher Eccleston again, and I'm a happy man. I know he obviously had problems with the show at the time and the producers, but man, he was cut short. It was before his time.
Yeah, I mean, I went to see. He did a talk at the Lowry last year.
Oh yeah, I was there too.
Oh, I went. We were all there. Somebody asked him, "Would you ever do Big Finish?" And he just went, "No." That was his answer. He just went, "No." And I was like, "Okay, that's the. If he's not even going to do Big Finish, I doubt he's going to come back from Doctor Who, unless there's a big paycheck, of course." But I don't think.
Well, he said on the 75th anniversary, the 100th anniversary. Being a bit facetious, but yeah, he's not. It's not on the list of things he wants to do.
Yeah, I thought that might be the case. Shame, but yeah.
But yeah, I agree with you, Charlie. I think we could definitely do with more Ninth Doctor. And for me personally, I'd like to see more Eighth Doctor on screen. Paul McGann.
Yeah.
And in terms of...
He hasn't aged. I was just going to say, he hasn't aged. He could very easily come back. That man doesn't age. He's like Paul Rudd. He looks the same as he did back then. Carry on.
I was just going to say I don't know about Ultimate Monster, yeah. I'm a big fan of the Raston Warrior robot, so I'd like to see Raston Warrior robot again. Although it's kind of limited in its range. You just need a bunch of Cybermen or some... Oh, Raston Warrior robot versus Weeping Angels. That could be interesting.
The Weeping Angels, that was a good episode. The first time they introduced that, was it called Don't Blink? Or I
just
can't remember.
Blink.
Was it all called Blink? Yeah, man, that episode was class. I loved it so much, and the Doctor was basically not even in it. So that was a really good episode.
Peter, I can't see the Drashigs back. I should have left to guess that, but I think the new series could do wonders for them. I think that'd be cool.
They scared me a lot when I was a kid. I must have watched that story. Yeah, well, I must have been 4 or 5, and it gave me nightmares.
Oh,
I watched that one recently. It's a very good one, that is.
Which one is that one again? Which episode, sorry?
It's Carnival of Monsters, the one is that the one you're thinking of? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great episode. So John Pertwee one.
There's another question here, very similar, on a similar sort of note, which is, where would you go, anywhere / anytime, and with which Doctor and companions? So kind of similar. So I think it's with we'll say it's with like a certain era of Doctor. I personally think an old Sarah Jane adventure would be fun. That'd be good. One of the old classic. I don't know. I can't think of any episode, but those are Those are
Or do
some-
we have to? Are we picking an episode we'd want to be in? Is that what the question is?
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I'm sort of interpreting it like that. It's another one of those quite hard questions to
I don't know.
answer.
Anywhere with Capaldi is fine for me. That's where I'd go. Just
Which Doctor would you feel the most safe with?
Oh God,
none of them. I don't know.
I'm trying to think of
I
one.
think Troughton would be okay.
Yeah, I was
Many
gonna
issues
say
with
that's-
it.
I'd like to
that's-
be with Troughton and Zoe and Jamie.
Yeah.
What do you think of the number of episodes which carry social messages in the last few years? I think we've sort of touched on that as well. You know,
If the-
they can be good, but I think they need to stop focusing on the message and get the characters in there as well. Make them interact, make them more important, but have the message. I don't mind the message.
It feels like Chibnall's got like a beat sheet though, doesn't it? Of like he has to have like a moment where Graham's like really cheeky, a global message warning, and it's just like it feels like he has a beat sheet of all things he wants to put into a script, and he's not actually like got the idea for a script. He's just got things he wants to put in it.
Yeah. I think it is one of those. What episode is your favourite, and why is it Love and Monsters starring Peter Kay?
I'm a Love and Monsters apologist. I am. I actually do quite like it, but in a naff sort of way.
Yeah, I like that episode. I think the story behind it as well. It was obviously the monster competition that they had, and it's obviously some kids drawing that they've sort of managed to work into an episode. I think that was a really cool like nice little fan interaction type thing. It was a weird choice having Peter Kay, but I suppose he worked quite well for the.
I saw an interview with Peter. I saw an interview with Peter Kay where he said it's his biggest career regret, and I thought that was quite funny. That he's just like, "Oh, I wish I never did that."
It was it was a bit weird. The paving slab thing at the end is also a bit weird. I just try not to think about that. I don't know how well you remember that the face in the concrete slab. Yeah, and sort of the weird implications that they put behind that. Anyway, but yeah, what's your guys' favorite episode? What was your guys' favorite episode?
That's too difficult. I can't answer that.
You don't have one in particular?
I quite like The Crusade. If anyone's seen what exists of that.
Bold choice.
I know. Well, I watched it recently, and I watched the loose cannon reconstruction for the bits that don't exist, and I don't know. It's a story I've overlooked, and it's actually I quite like it.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, that's when you go into deep fan territory. We start talking about the loose cannon remakes, isn't it? And I imagine there's a lot of people listening to this now going, "What?" Just Google it. It's much easier to explain by googling it. I can't watch them. I find them really hard to watch. But I'm glad they're animated.
Do you prefer the animations? I was going to ask you, prefer the animations then, or?
Yeah, I quite like the animations that are coming out at the moment. I think, I was when they announced they were doing Fury from the Deep. I think I actually shouted, "Oh my God!" out loud because I couldn't believe it was actually happening. But I think if we can get animated things, that's as close as we can. I'd rather animated than just sort of freeze frames and this really dodgy audio than some weird CGI bits in here that I find it really hard to watch.
I find it really difficult to get into the animations. Like I prefer the reconstructions because they feel more authentic and I can sort of relax more with them. I feel like the animations, it's like I'm watching something that's not, I don't know, not the original thing.
Yeah,
I know it's not technically a reconstruction, but I watched the Sharda DVD with the animation, and I think that was incredible.
Yeah.
When they make like Sharda the movie, I thought it was absolutely brilliant. So I think that quality of animation for the Troughton episodes, I wish they do some more Hartnell ones, but for those Troughton ones, I think they are brilliant, and I do like them.
Yeah, so for context, for people who don't know, there was a period of time when the BBC in the 70s and 80s was taping over all their old footage, and they lost a significant amount of the old Doctor Who episodes in that. I can't remember, it has a specific name when they were running through the archives and deleting footage, basically, retaping over stuff. And unfortunately, it does mean a lot of the episodes are missing. However, people have managed to recreate some of the old episodes using either animation or weird freeze frames and some sort of dodgy audio that they found that people have.
The Doctor's quite lucky though, isn't it? Because it's got all the audio.
Yes.
Some of the stuff in Dad's Army, the audio doesn't exist, so it's
some
lucky
stuff
in that
is just
respect.
totally gone from that period. It's a shame, but it was one of those things. They didn't have the space to store the stuff, so obviously everything was like tape and stuff at that time, so it was quite hard to just justify keeping it if they'd known.
What about you, Lesley? Do you like the animations? If you've seen them.
Yeah, I kind of have mixed feelings about them. I mean, my husband and I were starting a Hartnell from the beginning rewatch. We got sidetracked, but we got we watched Marco Polo, but so there's not very much Marco Polo left, but we somehow managed to get through it. And I had forgotten how good it actually was, and same with The Reign of Terror. We have it was over there. We had some of the animations to watch, but I haven't gotten to them yet. I mean, a long time ago, I used to want to be a Disney animator, so I guess I'm kind of quite interested in the animation from sort of an artistic perspective. But yeah, I don't know. I like the fact there's so many different versions, ways we can integrate with this material, and that we can, one person might not like the animation, one person might like it, so I'm kind of, we're saying that so much of it is missing, and we're lucky to have as much Doctor Who as we kind of do, because the contemporaneous TV, as you said, is mostly gone. So yeah, I guess the short answer is I have mixed feelings about the animation, but I guess overall I enjoy it.
So we've got another one here. Which season has the best intro?
Do they mean theme tune, or do they mean the actual title sequence?
I think they probably mean both, as far as I can tell. I'm probably going to say, I'm going to say the first, because it's very like nostalgically, like the very, very first, with the sort of ink in the water type thing that they did. Oh, I love that. I think it looks so good, and like the old music as well. It's very nice. So I'm going to say that one. I'm going to say the very first.
I mean, if we're talking opening titles, it's the David Tennant ones, just for nostalgia, really. That Vortex, can't beat it. But if I thought you meant intro, as in like, is it intro as in opening titles?
I think it means I think they mean the opening titles rather than like
if it was
intro to an episode, because I think that's quite. I mean,
because I thought it meant opener to like the actual series. What was the best scene that opened a series? For that, I would say series 9, but with New Who was my personal favourite, with that child, when it just that line when it's like, "What? Tell me the name of the boy who's not going to die today," and he just says Davros. The look on the Doctor's face. That's my favourite opener. But if we're talking intro, then yeah, David Tennant opening titles is my favourite.
Yeah, nice. Peter?
I quite like the first John Pertwee ones, season 7 ones, with all the colours. It's like they know that colour television's here, so they're just putting everything into it.
Nice. Lesley?
Yeah, actually, I'm with you, Charlie, on the theme tune, the original theme tune, by Ron Grainer and realized by Delia Derbyshire. It's got such weirdness, foreboding. It's kind of, unique. And in terms of title sequence, well, Aidan, you were saying nostalgia for David Tennant, and nostalgia for me is going to be a different era. So, in terms of visuals and nostalgia, that makes me a Sylvester McCoy era person. So, I don't know if anyone's seen on YouTube the video where they matched the soundtrack, the opening soundtrack, to Murder, She Wrote with the McCoy era visuals, but it's very funny and weirdly appropriate.
Nice. Someone says here, have you played the Doctor Who Escape Room?
No.
There's one in Manchester. I'm pretty
There's
sure.
a thing called Lockdown that happened.
Yeah. So yeah, it is in Manchester though, I think.
I couldn't even escape my own room, never mind a Doctor Who escape room.
Nice. If you had to be stuck somewhere with the Master, which would you choose? Which Master? Which is I mean, what's the best of a bad bunch? I suppose probably Missy, right? She's the best bad bunch.
Could you say Professor Yana before he realised he was the Master? That would be quite nice.
Yeah, good answer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, I actually really liked that episode as well. That was a cool episode. I enjoyed that one. Yeah.
I think Eric Roberts would be a laugh.
Yeah. Good point.
I always dress for the occasion.
Would you rather be the Doctor or the companion? I mean, if you're the companion, you're probably going to die. So
the Doctor can live forever, though, as we now know. So
probably be the Doctor. Can't die.
I'd be the Doctor until Chibnall took over, and then I would happily resign.
I would my life privileges. Would you rather be converted into a Cyberman or turned into a human Dalek? I'd say the Dalek. Daleks are cool.
Yeah, Dalek. Less painful.
I'd probably explode myself as well by the end of it, like in the Dalek episode. The Dalek, which is called Dalek, wasn't it?
I don't know, because if it was the human Dalek, though, that's the guy with all the tentacles coming off his head, and I don't think I fancy that much.
God, yeah, that's weird.
I think I'd rather go around shouting "delete" than having one eye and tentacles coming off me. I don't know.
It was a Dalek sec, wasn't it? In that, yeah. That's kind of funny. I quite like that one as well. It's weird. Yeah, I mean, they're both pretty bad. Either way, you're looking at a pretty sad time. Painful. Someone says, what is about Doctor Who that resonates with audiences after almost 6 decades?
I think Doctor Who's just like a giant octopus, isn't it? It just grabs you as a child and it just keeps you forever. It's like when you first see it, that's just it for most people.
I'd say because it's British TV, and we should support British television and great British TV. And you know, for the most part, it is great British TV, and we should celebrate it. I think that's why. You guys, thoughts?
I mean, it's got a great format. Obviously, it's so clever in the way that it can be so many things. I mean, we were saying at the beginning, trying to describe it to Aarif, you know, what genre is it? Well, it can be a historical drama one week. It can be hard science fiction another week. It can be telefantasy another week. It can be this. It can be that. And because it's got this built-in ability to change the main character, and then have this parade of companions filing in and out of it, and the ability to go so many places and do so many things. That's part of it. And then I would also say we've been trying to talk, what is the essence of the Doctor? What is this character? And, you're arguing perhaps that the 13th Doctor is not living up to that standard. But yeah, this character of the Doctor is sort of unlike any other comparable character on TV, and that is part of its, the program's Britishness, as you say, Charlie. It's very different from sort of the American TV tradition, and yeah, it's a unique show. It can be sort of whatever you want it to be. So yeah, I'm sure Aidan can top that.
Well, I've got a lot of pressure on now, but what I was going to say was that if it's aimed at children, which it was originally and sort of was when it came back, but I'm not really sure how much it is today, but when you look at a child's perspective of Doctor Who, which is how I got into it, I believe all of us here got into it as children. And the reason, I think, is because when you are little, you have so much wonder about the world. You don't know what's out there. You don't know what's out there. And this show sort of, you have a companion, especially if it's an earthbound companion, and they say, okay, let's take you out, let's show you what the universe has to offer. There's a lot of bad out there, but ultimately it's good, and it's going to be all right, because there are villains like the Daleks out there. They do exist. We have to acknowledge that. Obviously, they're not all going around in tin cans and shouting at us, but there are villains that exist in our world, and we have to acknowledge that. But there are good people. The Doctor exists. Unit exists. Torchwood. All these things exist that are there for good. And I think, especially when it's the same for when you get older, people still want to go out. How many people go, I want to go traveling one day? How many people have this desire to leave their hometown? People just want. There are a lot of people that just want to go out and explore, see the world, and I think that's what really captures the exploring part. Really captures that imagination of people.
Mm-hmm.
And then with the Doctor is like sort of, well, I was about to say he's the perfect example of what we want to be, but that's quite problematic when you think of some things about the War Doctor. Do we really want to commit mass genocide? Not really. But I think the Doctor's one of these people. He acknowledges his flaws. We know he's dark. Occasionally he'll push people into acid baths. Occasionally he will not talk to people about their cancer. But ultimately, the Doctor is never cruel, never cowardly. He is this ideal person. And, I will say a lot of my personality comes from various incarnations of the Doctor. He is certain times when I'm feeling down or whatever, I will put Doctor Who on, because you can always rely on that guidance to say, you might be in a tough time at the moment. You might be being chased by the Daleks at the moment, but everything will be okay. We will get out of this trap. And I think that really helps a lot of people, especially me. That's why Doctor Who, I know a lot of people who grew up with Doctor Who. They don't watch it anymore, but I still do. I'm still a religious fanatic. I'm still a maniac when it comes to Doctor Who. I still beg to be on podcasts about Doctor Who, because Doctor Who, to me, is just me. And I think it can be really impressionable, really inspiring, and it really captures the imagination of people who are interested in that and want that. And I think, especially when you're young, Doctor Who can appeal to nearly everybody. That's my bit.
Nice. I love that. Yeah, and you all bring up great points about it. It is, it has really stood the test of time, hasn't it? Truly. Who's their favourite character, and why is it obviously Roger Delgado's iteration of the Master? I think, yeah. Did we touch on this already? Did we say this already? I feel like we've said this already, haven't we? We've already mentioned this. Aidan's looking for him. Has he got a sinister looking beard? Oh yeah, there he is.
You will obey me.
Yeah. Favorite characters? Do you know what? For nostalgia, I'm going to say Rose Tyler was my favorite character in the series, just because she has that the horrific ending that just tears your heart out, and you're so sad when you see her get stuck in a parallel universe. No, don't go, don't let go of the thing. You're gonna fall. Oh yeah, that's sad. That was really sad. She was one of my favorites, though. I really liked Rose Tyler's character. You guys? Do you want to pitch him?
I'm just trying to avoid generic answers like the Doctor or.
Well, that's what I was thinking. It's like, well, obviously, like the Doctor's like great characters, so.
Yeah, I mean, I even want to say Sarah Jane, but even that still feels a bit generic. Do you know what I mean? Well, I don't know.
Clara, love or hate?
Ooh, good question.
I know this was tall.
Love her in it's gone out of my head. The 50th anniversary special. Is it Day of the Doctor?
Yeah.
And liked her less as time went on. By her final series, I was ready for her to go, but
did she have? Did she end with the flying restaurant? Is that?
Oh, don't remind me.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I am right then. Yeah. That was a bit weird.
I absolutely despised Clara in series 7, like with a burning passion. That her theme tune gives me PTSD. I hate it. But from the Day of the Doctor onwards, she became quite bearable. I thought she worked a lot better with Capaldi than she did with Matt Smith. When she was doing all that, I want the Doctor to be my boyfriend stuff, you're like, whatever. But then when she was with Capaldi, I preferred that much more. But then I think she should have left at the end of series 8. mean, she was written out at the end of Series 8. She was written out, and then she just went, "No, I want to carry on." So then in Last Christmas, that's why Clara was sort of given an exit, and then a new companion is introduced. But then that new companion never actually came part of it, and Clara carried on. And I think her initial exit in Face the Raven was brilliant, and I thought that's it. Okay, you've sort of redeemed Clara for me. I like this now. And then when the Doctor went hell bent, literally, to bring her back, that's why I was like, nah. And then the whole diner thing, no. But still but with hindsight, compared to Ryan and Yaz, I quite like Clara quite a lot.
I quite liked her in Series 7 because I never really liked Amy, and it was like a breath of fresh air. But then, after a while, she did start to grate on me, especially with Capaldi. And I don't think Jenna Coleman's the best actress ever. But yeah, she was fine. I like you say, much better than Yaz and Ryan.
Have we got anything more positive? I feel like we're moaning a lot. I've come on just to say I love Doctor Who, but I hate Doctor Who. I feel like that's what I've done.
Yeah, so we can, if you guys can find, like, this will be the last one now. This is the last one we have. If you guys want to, like, what's the best one, and then what's the worst? What best top? Or you just have to give one that is like you think is the best. I quite like. This is a bit of a controversial one because I know a lot of people didn't like it, but I liked the one. I can't remember the name of the episode. The one with just Peter Capaldi, and he's stuck in that weird tower, and he punches his way through the diamond. I liked that. I thought that was a good episode, and I really enjoyed it when I watched it. And I thought that's what made me like Capaldi that episode, actually, because at first I wasn't sure, and then I really liked him in that one. But I know that's controversial because I know a lot of people really hate that episode.
Which one did you say? Your mic went out for me.
Oh,
Heaven Sent.
Yeah, with the punch through the diamond wall.
No, that's seen as one of the greatest episodes of Doctor Who of all time. Heaven Sent is.
Some people really hated it. I'm pretty sure some people really didn't like that episode. But I loved it. I thought it was great.
No, I only ever see positive things about that one. I've never seen anything negative.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, anyway, that I thought that was really good. I thought it was some really good writing. It was good to have one character as well, and it was fun to watch the Doctor run around and throw himself off a building a load of times. That was cool. You guys, best and worst?
Oh, we're doing worst as well.
If you can, if you can think of it.
Well, okay, this is not the best episode or story of Doctor Who ever. And yeah, probably it's not the most brilliant script either. But I really enjoy, and I will watch it over and over and over again, The Five Doctors. It's one of the first stories that I saw. I rewatched it over and over as a child. And, for a lot of people, I think, I don't know about you guys, but before it was easy to get hold of all the Hartnell episodes that exist, all the Troughton episodes that exist, all of Pertwee, that was sort of my introduction to Doctors 1, 2, 3, and so yeah, it's a fun multi-Doctor story. So I would definitely put that at the top of stories that I enjoy and would rewatch.
It's like comfort food, Doctor Who, isn't it, really?
Yes, I think we can all agree on that. Peter or Aidan, best or worst episode?
My worst one, I'm not going to count the Jodie ones because, to be honest, I don't even know the titles of most of them. Like, I'm not really a fan of the Jodie ones, but apart from them, my worst one was probably, Twice Upon a Time, Peter Capaldi's last one.
Oh, I loved that one.
Yeah, but they ruined the first Doctor. They ruined him.
I don't know. I wouldn't agree.
I'm with Peter on that one. It's not one of my favorites. I wouldn't say it's my least favorite, but I didn't much like it.
The problem that I have with it is just that it's like most of the people watching that on Christmas Day when it came out, that would have been like their first impression of the first Doctor. And to me, it's just like that's nothing like what William Hartnell was like, or even like Richard Hurndall.
I find it hard to think of best, really, because best and favourite are very different for me. Like, what is like there are a lot of Peter Capaldi ones that I really like, but I know aren't very good. But it was, as we were saying, like comfort things. I quite like the sort of silly episodes. So I mean, this isn't what I'm saying for my favourite, but like an episode like The Caretaker, for example, derided mostly. I like it. It's very funny, and I think Capaldi does comedy really well. So when it comes down to favourite and things like that, it's hard. I mean, I think favourite really. I mean, I've watched a lot of classic. I haven't seen all of classic, I will admit, but I have seen a lot of classic. But New Who is really my mastermind expertise. If I went on Mastermind, my topic would be New Who. So I think my favourite really is Stolen Earth: Journey's End. Do I think it's the best one? Not really. I think it's a really nice. If Doctor Who had been axed with that, I actually think that'd have been a really nice end for it. But that's probably my favourite, but I don't think it's really the best. I think Heaven Sent is one of the best ones of New Who. Turn Left I really like.
Blink is a very, very good episode.
The Peter Capaldi World Enough in Time, the Doctor Falls, I think that was an incredible episode. Doctor Falls wasn't as good as World Enough in Time, but I think that was an incredible two-parter. That's another one of the ones for best and or favourite, really. If I had to separate it, really, I'd say my favourite for New Who is Stolen Earth. Best is probably Midnight or Heaven Sent. For Classic Who, my favourite is... I don't know, mate.
I hated Midnight.
How?
I absolutely hated that episode. It
Oh,
was
same.
so boring. So boring. Oh my god. I know people liked it, but
Yeah,
it was
doesn't
so
feel for me.
bad. It was so bad. It was just like so unexplained. Like it was I don't know, because normally like you go through a thing and it's like, oh, the Doctor solves it at the end, but like that was just sort of like, oh, he sort of just about managed to. I don't know, like I can't remember how it like how.
I think it's just such a good, tense, worst of humanity sort of episode. We think of humanity as like, yeah, we're all great people, we solve issues, but then when it comes to it, all these people are happy to murder this woman just because, I think it's a really good character study episode, that one.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree with that, but I just think as a Doctor Who episode, I found it like kind of boring. Yeah.
When I was a kid, I wasn't fussed on it. I will say that. Because it is just the Doctor sat in a room talking to people. So when I was a kid, I was like, come on, we want monsters. But now, especially, have we all read A Writer's Tale? I'm assuming maybe as much. But when you read that, the Russell T Davies book, when he details writing like the last two series of Doctor Who, then you get a real appreciation for it, about how quickly he wrote that script as well. And it's just like, you wrote that in such a small space of time. And I think Midnight's brilliant. Yeah, so what I was going to say was, I think it's one of the best ones for New Who, but it's not my favourite. Classic Who, my favourite would probably be maybe The Chase or The Tomb of Cybermen as my favourite. But then Genesis of the Daleks is probably the best. I mean, I know the DVD even has a sticker saying the best Doctor Who story on it. So I think that's pretty much the best, but it's not really my favourite. For worst, Classic Who, probably Warriors of the Deep. I just can't get on with that. No, actually, Silver Nemesis. I despise that story. It makes no sense. Why are there neo-Nazis and medieval sort of Renaissance aristocrats and Cybermen? It doesn't make any sense. So the Doctor's banging on about jazz. I hate that episode for Classic Who. And for New Who,
it's not that bad.
It is. I hate it. I just watched it go, why are there neo-Nazis? Why are there people firing arrows at Cybermen? This doesn't make sense. And then New Who, it would be the Timeless Children. Nah.
Yeah.
I've thought of my worst Doctor Who. It's Death to the Daleks. I couldn't remember the name of it. I have never finished watching it. I can't finish watching it. It's too boring.
It's not that bad.
Well, give it another try, because one should watch every episode, every story all the way through. But I just found it quite boring.
Do you know which story I think is quite overrated? I think Remembrance of the Daleks is quite overrated.
It's interesting
I really like that one.
You say that, because we have this debate. My husband and our friends who are Whovians, because he grew up, like Sylvester McCoy is his Doctor. He loves Remembrance of the Daleks. It's his favorite story. And I'm kind of in the middle ground. I enjoy it, but I don't think it's the best thing ever, which a lot of people who grew up in that era think it's the best thing ever. And then our other friend who came into Doctor Who mainly through New Who, who's from Israel originally, she can't. Well, she just doesn't like it because it's overhyped, in her opinion.
Yeah.
So
it's like is it the part 1 cliffhanger where the Daleks going up the stairs, and like he says exterminate 13 times. It's like if you've got time to say exterminate 13 times, you've got time to exterminate someone.
that's a fair point. Yeah.
Yeah.
The only thing I hate about that bit is when the Doctor shouts unlimited rice pudding. Like, I know that it's like quite an iconic line now, but I'm just like, what is it? I find that really off-putting. I don't know why. It's just like a real pet peeve of mine. But when the Doctor just goes unlimited rice pudding, I'm like, what? That's the only thing I don't like about that.
I've got a tin of rice pudding in the other room because it's such an in-joke, and again, one of our friends who's a Whovian brought it for us. So interesting that you say that.
There you go. The memes are on point with Doctor Who. So I had a request from this is pretty much the last thing we're going to be able to have time to do. This has been the longest podcast I think I've ever done, actually, which is interesting. But I had a request from Aarif, and he said, please, can you all do the theme tune together? I don't know how this is going to work with like the internet like lagging and stuff as well. We can try though if you like.
I mean, are we doing middle 8 as well, or just doing the 30-second?
maybe the 30-second. Wait.
And which version?
You need somebody to do the woo.
Yeah, we've got to decide who's doing the.
Yeah. So we'll have to do each bit. So.
And then depending on the version, you've got all sound effects going off as well.
We'll just go with like just the classic, I suppose, as close as we can get.
Derbyshire.
Yeah, with
what was the?
We started with the.
Yeah, we need that.
Who wants to?
I have no idea what you guys are talking about because the Wi-Fi just went off. So
yeah, so
Aarif really surreal if you just joined.
Aarif requested that we do the theme tune together. As like
okay. After.
Yeah, we do. Okay. We need someone else to come in.
This is too awkward.
Yay! Okay, that's as good as you're gonna get, Aaron.
There we are.
That's as good.
Is that because that's the only thing about Doctor Who that Aarif knows? He just has to put the theme. He has to put the theme tune in.
That's what he said. Yes.
Yeah, this is the only thing he knows. So good job, Aarif. You're gonna have to watch all. I don't know how many episodes there are. I think there's like 600 and something episodes of Doctor Who. So good luck watching them all, because it's going to be a very long time till you finished.
Well, if we're in lockdown long enough, we've got time to do it.
That's right.
So yeah, thank you so much to all the wonderful Whovian guests we've had on today. You've all been much more knowledgeable than I, and I realise that there's a lot of episodes I've missed. Anyway, thank you all very much for joining.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, thanks for
thank you.
having us.
I've really enjoyed talking about Doctor Who with you guys.
I think we could probably go on for hours and hours, because that's one thing you can be certain of with Doctor Who fans. We can just keep talking about it for, ad nauseum.
We have other people that also wanted to do this podcast as well. We had a lot of response on this, which is awesome. So we might get more.
Well, next time you could invite my colleague, Dr. Richard Hewitt, who is immensely knowledgeable about Doctor Who, and I'm sure would have plenty to say, which would be quite different from my point of view on Doctor Who. So,
next time if we do Doctor Who again, I think it's definitely going to have something very specific and less general about. Yeah, I don't really know how to end this, because there's obviously so much more we can say. But yeah, thank you for joining me again. It's nice everyone's internet is not messing up at the moment, so I'll do it really quick. Thank you all for joining me, Peter, Lesley, and Aidan. Thank you so much for being here. It's been great to chat. And
thank you, Charlie.
I hope you all come back for another one, something different next time. We'll do something cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone. Oh, also, I forgot to say, you can get the podcast. You can go on Instagram, at UOS_film production. There's loads of stuff posted on there, and you can go check out what we're doing over there. You can check us out on Instagram, Spotify, Apple Music, all your favorite podcast places, Anchor FM. Yeah, and it's posted everywhere. So watch, listen, whatever you do, UOS_film production. Oh, it's also on YouTube. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.